There is a growing sentiment within the Flesh and Blood community that the game is getting far too competitive. It's getting harder and harder to bring new players into the game, especially casual ones. While LSS has done a fantastic job bringing in a lot of disaffected Magic players, especially the pro players, it's led to a lot of LGSs being a little too competitive, which is just widening the gap between established and new players. And a lot of people fear that this is going to prevent Flesh and Blood from truly growing as a game. After all, most people who play trading card games aren't competitive players. Most people can't afford to travel across the country or hell, travel across the world to participate in many of these big events. Most people just go down to their LGS every week to get in some games. But if you're a new player and your LGS is very, very competitive, it can be a little off-putting. And so many people are asking the question, what can LSS do about this? What can change about the game in order to appeal to new and more casual players? One thing that Flesh and Blood does have is Ultimate Pitfight, basically this game's version of EDH. And while this format is amazing and more people need to play it, I think that what it's going to take for this format to really start to become more popular is LSS making Ultimate Pitfight pre-con decks, but more about that in another video. Today, I want to talk about LSS's secret weapon, and it's one that's kind of been out in the open for a while now. It's just not here yet. And it's a format that no other game at the moment is offering, and one that I think will make Flesh and Blood an unbelievably popular game, and that's PVE. Players versus environment. Raids, dungeon crawls, boss fights. What's not to love about the idea of PVE in a card game? Now, this idea isn't new. In fact, the old World of Warcraft TCG had PVE, but that game was discontinued, and I'm pretty sure it actually was just turned into Hearthstone. And so at the moment, nobody's really doing PVE. Enter Flesh and Blood. Flesh and Blood has a fantastic system that really lends itself well to the idea of PVE. And I know this because other people have made their own PVE engines, like the Overlord Engine, which I have played and I've talked about on the channel. I will link it in the description below if you just really want to play PVE with your friends. It is a ton of fun to play. And I hope that, like the Overlord Engine, when we finally do get PVE for Flesh and Blood, it's not player driven. You don't need a person sitting down with the boss's deck and playing it out. Hopefully the bosses or raid system or whatever it ends up being plays itself. So you sit down with your friends and it's just you against the boss. Now there's a lot of speculation for how PVE could go. A lot of people want it to be some big LGS event. Like, what if all the players get together and they're fighting one giant massive boss all at the same time, and you can get loot and prizes and cold foils and everything else for beating these bosses. That being said, I also hope that it comes in a pre-packaged box. It comes with the bosses and all the cards associated with them, and you can pick it up at your LGS. You can either play it there or you can take it home and play it with your friends. I genuinely believe that if PVE comes out, there needs to be a product that people can purchase and take home to their friends, because that will appeal to a ton of people, not just trading card game players. I think that that could appeal to people who play board games as well, or even just regular gamers. PVE is a hugely popular style of gaming, and after the TCG boom of 2021, a lot more people are now aware that these cards can have value. So with that and PVE, I really do think that this could pull in a lot of people who don't normally play trading card games. But obviously, it's also going to pull a lot of people who do play trading card games. You're gonna see players from all sorts of games suddenly come to Flesh and Blood to try the PVE, especially if they do it really well, which I genuinely believe LSS is going to do. They still haven't released a whole lot of information on it, which tells me that they are making sure they get it right, because I think that they know this is their secret weapon. This is their thing that will set the game apart from all these other games. I genuinely believe that once we finally see PVE, this will cause a great resurgence in popularity for Flesh and Blood. This will have people flocking back to the game. It will be the only established game with proper PVE, and this will be huge. But LSS has to do it right, and this is why I'm fine with them waiting. I would much rather they take their time to make sure it's good rather than rushing it out just to try and get people in right now while there's a bit of bearishness and some negativity around the game. At the very moment, Flesh and Blood is still a very competitively focused game, but I don't think that this is going to be its entire future. I think that's going to be the core value for the company, but I do think that the game is going to evolve to appeal more and more to casual players. And so when PVE drops and that time comes, you can bet that I'm going to be here making a crap ton of content about it because I am so excited to finally be playing official PVE. I love sitting at the table with my friends, just jamming some games. That's my favorite way to enjoy these card games, and I am absolutely pumped for PVE. I think that PVE will be LSS's secret weapon to conquering the casual market, and I cannot wait until it finally comes out.